This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about.
Let's go to the movies, and let's go to the movies for free. I'm producer Jade Iseri Ramos, filling in for your host, Bianca Martin. Thursday kicks off the UW Cinematheque's Fall Series, and joining me to talk about it is Mr. Movie Man himself, Rob Thomas. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Jade. I'm so excited. I feel like my two worlds are colliding because obviously, I'm a creative producer for CityCast Madison, but I've also been writing about movies in Madison for a long time, and currently on a Substack newsletter I do on my own called Not That Rob Thomas. So I'm really pumped. I'm a
big fan of Not That Rob Thomas. In fact, one of the things that I've been doing is when I hear a different Rob Thomas maybe being played at like a bar that I'm at, I've been saying, that's not my Rob Thomas. So,
hashtag not my Rob Thomas, right.
You are both my Rob Thomas and not that Rob Thomas. But before we get into the movies, I just want to let people know that we are doing a really short ask for folks to join our Neighbors program, which supports the show. It's $10 a month or $100 a year and really keeps the lights on here. And for just this week, we have some extra custom merch that folks can get if they join by going to membership.citycast.fm/Madison. And I don't know about you, Rob, but this month, the neighbors have really been holding us up.
Yeah, it's been a tough month for Madison, and certainly covering the news, we're not immune from that. And, we had a neighbor event a couple of weeks ago at the Old Brick Beer Garden, and we were like, is this okay to gather like this? And it ended up being really rejuvenating to talk to our members, to introduce our members to other members, and just have that kind of community gathering, just to sort of, like I said, rejuvenate each other. So I know I was really grateful for it.
Yeah, me too. And I think that the neighbors only meetups, I think that's one of the best things that we offer, I think, in this membership program. It's really nice to not have to listen to ads. It's really nice to get the events newsletter, those other perks, getting the ability to shout out your favorite people or organizations or businesses. Those are all really nice, but the opportunity to meet each other and talk and, just make those connections and feel connected deeper into the city and really find the CityCast Madison community, I think is really invaluable. And, as a bonus, it really helps us. I think that our morale is really lifted by neighbors, but also it shows the larger CityCast company that people care about this in Madison. And, you guys really lift us up. So you can become a neighbor by going to membership.citycast.fm/Madison. And while you do that, Rob, let's talk about the Cinematheque's fall season. So folks who've been following the show for quite a while know that we really like Cinematheque. But Rob, can you give us a reminder of what it is?
Yeah, so sort of simply put, it's a free on-campus film series at the UW-Madison campus that's open to the public on a first-come, first-served basis. And really, the fact that we have no downtown movie theaters in Madison, which is always so strange to me, it's kind of the de facto downtown movie theater. It's often packed with people. They have a fall series, a spring series, and they usually have a summer series. But that was canceled this past summer because of those issues the campus was having with keeping the buildings cool because of a water line mishap. So they're really excited to get back in the theater starting this Thursday. The theater is at 4070 Vilas Hall on the 4th floor there. But they also, on some Sundays, will show movies at the Chazen Museum of Art has a really nice theater space as well. And that theater in Vilas Hall, it's state of the art. They can play digital movies, but also 35 millimeter and 16 millimeter films, which is really fun for physical media heads who love seeing stuff on actual film. The sound is really good in there. The seats are comfortable. The one drawback, you cannot bring food or drink in there. And I will say there are some screenings where I'm like, boy, I really want popcorn right now, but it's no dice. It's no food or drink.
You got to eat your popcorn beforehand.
Exactly.
Go in with that craving satisfied.
Exactly. I should set up like a popcorn stand right outside, and I could probably make bank on that. I don't know if they'd let me do that. And yeah, the types of films they show really vary. I mean, broadly, it's things that would normally not play in Madison. It could be a premiere of a new independent movie that may or may not ever come to Madison screens. The audiences get to look at before it opens. It could be a foreign language film. It could be like a black and white movie from the 40s or 50s, or just like some cool old movie that maybe you saw on late night TV, but you've never seen on a big screen with a packed crowd. And so it's a really fun, eclectic program. And again, it's free. The whole thing is funded by grants and donors, and there's a donation box as you come in and out. And really, it's just really one of the treasures of Madison, especially for movie fans.
A couple years ago, I saw Wes Anderson's The Grand Budapest Hotel, and that was one that like I had seen on my laptop screen, but to see it in a crowded movie theater, just like gorgeous. And then there was like following it, there was a little talk back on the screen. And that was just really cool to hear like a real movie head break down what was happening in the film.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is sometimes they will have talkbacks with the filmmakers themselves, or like maybe a UW professor who's, specializes in that kind of film. So it's really fun.
Yeah. So the fall series is broken up into 6 subcategories. They are the premieres, The Spirit of Zeitgeist, 3 White Nights, Rajamouli, New Restorations, and Casper Kelly Presents. Rob, I'm going to explain each of these categories, and then I'm curious if there's any films that you're especially excited by. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
So starting with premieres, this is an ongoing series at Cinematheque that brings early and exclusive screenings of current art house films.
And this Thursday it premieres with The Sun Never Sets by Joe Swanberg, who is sort of I guess I would say a veteran indie filmmaker. He was part of what they call the mumblecore movement in the aughts, and he'll be there with this new film, The Sun Never Sets. The one I'm really looking forward to is called The History of Concrete, and it's filmmaker John Wilson, who had this really great HBO series called How To with John Wilson, where he sort of like deconstructs the idea of filmmaking. It's hard to explain, but in this documentary, he goes to a class on how to write a Hallmark movie, but then he applies the lessons he's learned in that class to make a documentary about concrete. So like, how could you resist that, right?
I love that sort of explainer where like I would never like even think to look this up. That's incredible.
Right. Yeah.
I have a pick for this one, which is How to Divorce During the War, which the write-up for it says, one day after, and I think you pronounce his name, Marija, finally works up the nerve to tell her husband she wants to separate, Russia invades Ukraine. This feels like it's going to be a film that totally like changes my perspective and like gives me sort of an everyday person's perspective on the war in Ukraine. It sounds so interesting.
Yeah.
One of the other categories is new restorations and special presentations. And as the name says, these are older films that in some cases have been restored.
Yeah, sometimes they have new 4K restorations on digital. Sometimes they have new 35 millimeter print. So, I mean, movie heads will usually pack these screenings. The 2 I'm looking at is The Third Man, which is this classic noir set in post-war Vienna starring Orson Welles. That's going to be a new print. That black and white photography is going to look incredible on a big screen. And then the other one of my big movie blind spots is I've never seen a film by the filmmaker John Cassavetes, who made these really kind of rough, almost improvisational movies, a lot of times with his wife, Gina Rowlands. And his film, Mikey and Nicky, is going to be playing as part of the series. So I want to get my Cassavetes on and see that.
Yeah, you got to fill in this resume. Come on.
There you go. Right.
The 2 films that I'm excited by are like classics. So Cry Baby, say what you will about Johnny Depp right now, but classic Johnny Depp movie, Cry Baby. And Carrie is playing on Halloween, which incredible. The blood pouring over her head. That needs to be on the big screen. And also, last year I read The Shining as my kind of Halloween read. I think Carrie by Stephen King is my Halloween read this year. So it'll be perfect timing, read the book, see the film at a Cinematheque. It's perfect.
I love it.
And then, so the next 3 categories are a little bit more niche. The first one is 3 White Nights, which is 3 master filmmakers re-envisioning the enduring short story White Nights by, and excuse my mispronunciation here, Fyodor Dostoevsky.
This is the classic, like, eclectic Cinematheque idea for a series. Like, who would put these movies together? The one I've seen is called Two Lovers by James Gray, and it stars Joaquin Phoenix. I really like it, so I would recommend that one.
Joaquin Phoenix, you can't go wrong there.
There you go.
And then another niche one is Casper Kelly Presents, which is filmmaker and director Casper Kelly picked all the films in this series. And it starts with his new horror comedy, which I want to see, called Buddy.
Yeah. Casper Kelly, I think, became famous on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim. He makes these very twisted films and shorts that are kind of based in 80s and 90s TV. Like Buddy is like a horror movie where the killer is like a Barney-like character on children's TV. But he's picked a pretty eclectic range of movies for Cinematheque. The two I want to see, there's a sort of a 1970s thriller starring Warren Beatty called The Parallax View. It's one of my favorite movies. I would love to see that with a crowd. And then Under the Skin is this incredibly creepy science fiction horror movie starring Scarlett Johansson as an alien stalking people in Scotland. I think that was my favorite movie of that year. So I'd recommend both those.
Okay, Under the Skin. I'm adding that to my calendar. And the last sort of niche category is Rajamouli Myth Spectacle Cinema, which is a collection of films directed by the groundbreaking Indian filmmaker S.S. Rajamouli. And Rob, do you have a pick for this series?
Yeah, he had a big hit in American theaters a couple of years ago with a movie called RRR. It's like a 3-hour action epic. I started watching it on Netflix and never finished it. So like, this would be a great one to see on the big screen because there's, you're locked in for 3 hours.
3-hour action epic. We're prepped for that, sounds familiar for a big screen film that came out this year. And then an honorable mention is the At the Chazen part of this series. So Spirit of the Zeitgeist is the films that they're playing there. They're not at the Cinematheque, proper theater. They're happening at the Chazen. And this fall series is all movies from the New York-based distributor Zeitgeist Films.
Yeah, Zeitgeist is known for really kind of envelope-pushing independent films. Yeah, there's like one a month, I think, this fall. And the one we'd be looking at would be called Poison by Todd Haynes, who went on to make A Far From Heaven and May, December. But this is his first feature, which is a really, like I said, a very envelope-pushing film. So Poison from 1991.
Love it. So like we mentioned, the fall series opens tomorrow, Thursday, August 27th, with The Sun Never Sets, and the director will be there. We've got more fun around the corner, but let's take a quick break. All right, we are back. And since we're talking about movies, I'm curious about what movies have been set in Madison. Rob, I don't have a ton of knowledge about this, so I think that you're kind of our expert here. Okay,
yeah. I'm actually always surprised that there isn't more movies shot in Madison because I feel like we're a very cinematic town. We got the lakes, we're on the Isthmus, we got the Capitol, of course, campus. Like, I feel like there's a lot of places to shoot a movie here. So there's the movies that are set here in Madison, but actually filmed elsewhere. They're the movies that are filmed here, but have the city sort of subbing in for another place. And then the movies that are set here and also filmed here. So yeah, of the first category, movies weren't actually filmed here. The one I really love is called Away We Go, which is John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph, who are kind of traveling the country, trying to decide where to settle down and raise a family. And there's a really funny scene set in Madison where Maggie Gyllenhaal plays like a ultra-liberal UW professor. And she's really funny, sort of sending up the idea of a Madison liberal mom. It really hit home when I saw it. And then the other one, which is set at the UW, but not filmed here, was called The Prince and Me, where Julia Stiles attends the UW and falls in love with the Danish prince, as one does when they come to Madison.
I haven't seen either, but I have to see The Prince and Me because, why would a Danish prince be at UW-Madison?
Well, why not? I mean, yeah. Yeah. And then talk about movies where Madison's fills in for something else. Usually that involved the Capitol, like Public Enemies, which was the gangster movie shot by Michael Mann. Filmed some scenes up in Cambridge, but really the only time they shot in Madison, they used the state capitol as a backdrop, but said it was the U.S. Capitol. And then there was a 90s action movie called Chain Reaction with Keanu Reeves that did the same thing. They shot a lot inside and outside the Capitol, pretending it was various buildings in Washington, D.C.
I mean, she's beautiful, you know. She's a nice capital. She can stand in. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But let's talk about movies that were actually shot here.
Yeah.
The biggest one, I think, is probably Back to School, which was the 1986 Rodney Dangerfield comedy where Rodney plays a dad who goes back to school with his own son. And the UW was called Grand Lakes University in the movie, but it was shot like all over campus. And I even have a couple of friends who went to school there at the time who are in the background of crowd scenes and stuff like that. So that's like your best shot at seeing Madison at the movies. I've
heard really good things about Back to School being like sort of a time capsule of like, this is Madison. And like, I like the name Grand Lakes University. I think that we could really settle on that.
Yeah, I'm curious how well that one has aged over the last 40 years, but it's probably worth revisiting. But other ones like Four Keeps, again, about a UW-Madison student. Molly Ringwald plays a pregnant UW-Madison student. The Last Kiss, which was from 2006, where Zach Braff gets mixed up in a campus romance. A lot of campus stuff.
Yeah.
I Love Trouble, which is not a very good movie, but brought Julia Roberts and Nick Nolte to Madison playing rival reporters covering a big political story. So more shots in the Capitol there. And then just more obscure ones. There was this, if you know the filmmaker Werner Herzog, he shot a movie called Stroshek in 1977 in Madison, as well as other Wisconsin locations. And I mention this because I got to interview him on the phone. This was about 20 years ago. And you haven't lived until you hear Werner Herzog name Wisconsin towns in his Austrian accent. You know, Nakusa, Stevens Point, Plainfield. I mean, I'll never forget it. It was the most awesome thing. And the last one I'll mention is not really a movie, but in 1980, one of those ABC after-school specials was shot in Madison, starring Scott Baio about a hockey player who became an alcoholic.
What was the name of that movie?
The Boy Who Drank Too Much.
I've never heard such an on-the-nose name.
Absolutely.
I love that.
They didn't beat around the bush, those ABC after-school specials. Yeah.
Well, we have more movies to talk about next, but before we do that, let's take a quick break. All right. Rob, as you mentioned, you have a movie Substack, Not That Rob Thomas. And I often turn to your newsletter for movie suggestions, or when I've like seen a film that like no one in my group chat has seen. Like I recently watched the Ethan Hawke movie Blue Moon on a plane and then immediately searched my inbox to see if you had written about it, which you had.
I had, yeah.
Which was helpful for me. But have you seen anything good recently?
Well, I finally saw The Odyssey. It took me 4 weeks, I think, to finally get to the IMAX screen in Fitchburg to see it. Don't watch this one on a plane. And the fun thing was, even in the fourth weekend, the theater was still packed.
That's cool.
And I loved it. I mean, it was interesting because like the first 2/3, I was like, oh man, this is Homer's greatest hits. Like just these recreations of like, you know, the Trojan horse and the sirens and the Cyclops and all the sort of the things that you remember from reading the Odyssey in high school. And then the last hour, I thought it really became very emotionally resonant with these themes that Nolan brings in about civilization and like how civilizations often destroy themselves from within when they don't live up to their own values. And I thought that was really relevant to kind of what we're going through now in 2026. So I really loved it.
Yeah, I also saw it in IMAX and incredible. Like when we got in and they were showing the previews, I was like, this screen's too big. Like how can we possibly watch a film on this? But it was the whole thing, you know, you're just taking it all in. And everyone was in it. I think that was the other thing about that film.
That's true.
I was just like, it opened and I was like, Elliot Page is here? Like what?
Yeah. Like the entire cast of the new Spider-Man movie is also in the Odyssey, right?
Yeah, exactly. The movie that I just saw is Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, which was so good, Rob. I'm already planning to see it again.
I am so excited to see that. That's one of the movies of the year I've been most looking forward to.
Like, it's the definition of campy. It's just like so campy, so queer. It stars Hannah Einbinder, who's like really having a moment. She's one of the stars of Hacks and everyone's favorite Gillian Anderson. And it's written and directed by Jane Schoenbrunn, who is the writer and director of I Saw the TV Glow, which was one of my favorite movies a couple years ago. And just like, it's beautifully shot. They do some really interesting things with the set and like sort of mixing mediums there. And I'm excited to hear what you think of it in your newsletter when you watch it.
Yeah, I Saw the TV Glow is my favorite movie of 2024, wherever that was. So I'm really, really looking forward to that one. And then another one I saw in theaters recently was Tony, which is, I did write about it in my Substack. It's sort of a biopic of Anthony Bourdain, the chef and TV personality, but it's not the kind of biopic where it's like he was born, he did all this, he died. It's like just focuses on one summer when he was kind of a bratty college student who went to Cape Cod. And it avoids a lot of the pitfalls, I think, of a biopic by focusing on that. Like, you don't even need to know who Anthony Bourdain was to appreciate this story of like I said, a college kid who's kind of doesn't really know what he wants to do and spends the summer there, falls under the mentorship of a chef played by Antonio Banderas, who's fantastic, and leaves with like a little bit more of a sense of direction. And I really like that. I think it's only playing in a couple of theaters right now. It's definitely the definition of an indie, but I think people should check it out.
We love an indie. We love a review. And, we also love our new neighbors. We have a couple new neighbors to thank. So while we're in this sort of talking about our favorite things, I feel like we should shout them out. So Maureen MB, Lily C, and April S, thank you so much for becoming neighbors.
Yeah, thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and because they joined this week, they are getting access to some of our merch, which you can also do by going to membership.citycast.fm/Madison and becoming a monthly or yearly supporter of what we do here. We mentioned this at the top, but that support really allows us to keep doing what we do every day. Rob, I have had so much fun talking about movies with you today.
This has been a blast. Thank you, Jade.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm creative producer Jade Iseri Ramos, sitting in for your host, Bianca Martin. Don't forget you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Madison. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with someone you want to take to the movies? Help spread the word about CityCast Madison. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care and thanks for listening.